job loss.
These sudden, harsh, arbitrary cuts would jeopardize our military readiness,
our country less safe, and our communities less safe as a result of sequester.
Furloughs of air traffic controllers, food inspectors, border patrol, cuts to job training, federal education assistance, reduce investments in safe drinking water, medical research.
Sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But my next guest says the sky is not falling. Therefore, it's time to keep cutting. Craig Smith is the chairman of Swiss America. Okay, the sequester cuts are what? 2.5% of the total budget. If the sky isn't falling, how much would you like to cut, Craig?
Well, if you check with the IMF, they did a study of 170 countries, 15 major economies. They said you could cut at least 1% of your GDP and not have any effect on growth, Stuart. And I find it laughable when you just had Rick Scott with you, who has 330 some odd thousand jobs he created, but Nancy Pelosi said that the sequester is going to cost jobs. I mean, this is crazy, Stuart. You know as well as I do that proper fiscal consolidation done in the appropriate way can have a very positive impact on the income, on the economy.
But the other side of the coin is that the sequester cuts were meant to shrink the deficit. And they have played a role in shrinking the deficit. It's not going to be $1 trillion this year. It's going to be about $600 billion and change.
Right.
And the sequester cuts were part of that narrowing down of the deficit. So you could say that sequester cuts had a good effect on the deficit. And maybe you could say that if we cut some more, we'd have an even better effect on the deficit.
Oh, absolutely, Stuart. I'm all for another full 1%, but this time let's aim it at mandatory spending. Let's aim it at the retirement and health care and unemployment benefits. We're paying people to retire, to use health care, and to not work.
Is that politically
Stuart,
possible?
Well, there's no political will for it, Stuart, but economically it makes sense. Look, if you look at any nation that came through a very difficult time, it was fiscal austerity. And the data is empirical, Stuart. I know you know this from Fox Business News, which, by the way, if you don't get it, you should demand it.
That's good. Very good. Very good.
But the truth is the data is empirical, Stuart. If you reduce government spending, or if you reallocate that spending into discretionary, like roads, bridges, building tanks, you create a stronger economy. And what's interesting about the cuts, the CBO even said this. Yes, it may cause a little slowdown this year, but then in years 2, 3, and 4, we not only get back to where we were before the sequester, but we're going to actually be above it. Growth comes back. Even though this government is doing everything it can to slow this economy down, Stuart, sooner or later they're going to run out of steam.
We hear you, Craig Smith. Thanks for joining us, as usual. Thank you, sir.
Good being here.
Now, everybody, tomorrow.